Erie's women stepped up to the plate too. With more than one-third of Erie County's men enlisted or drafted in the service between 1940 and 1945, Erie's women went to work.
Women started going to work regularly after that. They had worked in World War I in the factories, but they had gotten pushed out when all the veterans came home.
Women performed all kinds of clerical duties, worked on draft boards, and mostly went to work in Erie factories, producing supplies and material for the war.
They preferred to employ them in the office, but there was such a demand that women ended up working on the assembly line and in foundries on the floor, actually.
For some women, the duties meant new responsibilities. Jean Werner worked at Blythe Electric, making semiconductors out of galena for the use of crystal radios in the war.
Well, at 18, I'm graduating from Strong Vincent, and I needed a job. And I lived at that time, which is no longer there, 11th and Chestnut. So I went up there, and they hired me right away. And we made crystals. That lasted 6 months. Like I say, all war work is like that. And then right in my backyard, if I could have just walked through this place. It had been called Odin Stoves. So they probably made stoves there before, but then they turned it into a war plant and they were making airplanes. And so my sisters and I both wanted a job that close to home. And we went in there, and the way mine was set up, there was you had to, everything working on a high platform. You know how big the planes are. You were on you had to go up a straight little ladder, get on the platform, and my group, we were the skinners. We hung the skins, thin metal strips, great big ones, on the side of the plane, our crew, and then we drilled holes in to hold them on there. And we had what we called a clerical to put in the holes to hold them. When we got done, they went down to my sister, who was a riveter, and they took the clericals out and riveted all that on there. Then it'd go to painters and everything, and then one day, there'd be this wonderful day. We were so proud. They would just open the big, like, Bombay doors, and out that plane would go all finished. We were so proud.
Ann Condrat, 17 at the time, grew up on a potato farm in Pageville and commuted weekly by bus to her wartime job at Blythe Electric Company. She did that with her sister Virginia, who worked at GE Transportation.
We were all farm girls. Like the guys would wear a one-piece suit, but this was for a woman, you know. And, well, we had our regular clothes that we went to work with, but we had to change them into the other things. Somebody was in charge of the government to check what we did, and there was no monkeying around. Of course, we were petrified. We didn't know what was going on, you know. But after a while, we calmed down and we got to know everybody. While we were there, we rented what?
A room?
Yeah, a cheap room, you know what I mean, just to sleep in there and change our clothes.
The U.S. government provided child care services for most women who wanted to work toward the war effort. Most Erie women found a way to care for children, all while working full-time.
The government stepped in and kind of did its best to provide child care and, you know, making sure women, you know, had the opportunity to work but also raise for their family and shop. So, you know, with men going off to war, women had to cook, clean, take care of the children, and, you know, usually now work.
Erie women describe watching films and writing to American soldiers while they weren't on the clock.
I spent most of my time in the evenings writing letters to servicemen. All my friends, one by one, you know, you'd have a boyfriend, next thing you know, oh, he's going in the service. So I'll write to you, you know. I bet I wrote to 12 of them. My folks had good friends, the Werners. And his dad called and wanted to know if he could bring his boy, who he called Sonny, over to meet us. And he wanted somebody to be writing to his son, I think. But, and then he met my sister Claire, and we were both going to write to him. I married him years later.
World War II forever changed the role that Erie women played in its society.
Women, well, women who had husbands, like GI husbands, kind of, yes, went back to their role as housewives or began their role as housewives after the war, but women who, weren't kind of disposed towards that or were maybe a little older didn't go so quietly out of the workforce itself.